My name is Coach Thompson. I'm the owner of the Fairfax Football Academy. I train and develop quarterbacks for a living. What that means is I working with 80 to 100 quarterbacks weekly for most of the year, and I'm also a high school coach. We have quarterbacks at all levels of football. We have about 25, 26 guys currently in college at different levels. We have another 45, 50 guys at high school, and then another 30 between middle school and youth. And I thought it'd be real interesting for parents and players to start interviewing some of these quarterbacks at the different stages of their career. So with us right now, we have Grant Wilson. Grant was a Yorktown graduate, went to Fordham University, then went to ODU, and now is in a Big Ten program at Indiana. We're going to get to all that, but Grant, I want to start right at the beginning. You are a proud Georgia transplant. You landed in Arlington in what grade?
In 8th grade.
And you told me that you walked into the Yorktown High School weight room and you said defensive end and what other position?
Defensive end and wide receiver.
And your dad said?
Dad said, nope, you're going to be quarterback.
Okay, and that's how your career started.
And then Coach Hanson and Coach Holland asked if I could throw a football, and I was like, sure. And they said, all right, you're quarterback.
That's great. So moving past your 8th grade year and your 9th grade year, how did the quarterbacking go?
8th grade, I kind of switched with Will Porter for a little bit, and then 9th grade he moved on to varsity, and I did freshman football.
So you got those reps. This seems to be a common theme. I've done 3 of these interviews. We did one with Matthew Abramson, and Matthew had a decision he could back up on varsity or go play JV. He took the JV reps. I just talked to Daniel Lepovsky. He had a similar situation with this guy named Jamie Kaiser, and he could have done this, but Kaiser went to JV and he played freshman. And everybody's remarked about how those reps were so important to him. Were they to you?
They sure were. Any reps at any level is about as good as it can get. I mean, there's no better experience than being in a game.
Okay. And I want to bring something out early. You are a multi-sport athlete. So in 9th grade, what other sports did you do at Yorktown?
I played lacrosse.
Okay. And just a point to bring up, as players go higher up, there's 2 big clusters. One is the cluster of the football player who's a multi-sport athlete. He either plays football, he may wrestle, which is a kind of a strange combination for a quarterback, but I did it. But it's football, basketball, or football, baseball. And then there's another huge cluster, not that track isn't a sport, but usually football, track. Those are the 2 clusters that you see when you check the background of players that are higher up. Not that a player that just does football only can't get there, but you see these big clusters in the background. So you played lacrosse in the spring. And I want to move you quickly into your sophomore year because it's at the end of your freshman year and your sophomore year that we meet and start working together. Is that correct?
That's right.
Right. And you were a year behind Will, but Will had come to me the year before. So now I've got this stream of this is Arlington business, by the way. I don't care. Arlington business is Arlington business. Yorktown and WNL are rivals, and they have been forever. I went to WNL, and so the first stream of quarterbacks from Arlington that came to me were a string of Yorktown quarterbacks. Maybe they're just smarter. I don't know. Yep. But anyway, so I find myself helping these Yorktown quarterbacks who are all great guys. And anyway, so you get to your sophomore year, and the decision, you have a legendary coach there, Coach Hanson, who just retired he didn't really retire. He quit coaching at Yorktown. He didn't retire. But I think 300 wins, I think he's accumulated. Amazing career. But in your sophomore year, you and Will have to split time, correct?
Correct. We switched every 2 plays, no matter what.
Every 2 plays, and the emphasis on the no matter what. So the story,
no matter the situation, no matter the time in the game.
It was right down the middle. Right. And in Coach Hanson's defense, and maybe we'll get Will on here too, he must have had 2 quality individuals. He's coaching as long as he has. He can recognize things. He recognizes your talent, and he can recognize the type of person that Will is. Will just became a Navy SEAL, I think, recently. But the 2 plays it was crazy because I remember I was coaching private school, so I played on Saturday and I had a chance to come see 3 of my quarterbacks play in the same game, 2 for Yorktown and Jack Fisher, 1 for Woodson. So I thought that'd be a pretty good game. And I remember some possession where you were in minus territory, and in 2 plays you get up to the 50-yard line. I'm like, oh, he's going to finish this drive. It's like, no, you come out. Will goes in for 2. He comes out. You went in for 2. You come out. And then Will finishes the drive and Yorktown scores. Crazy, right?
It's bizarre, but it worked. Coach Hansen knows how to get things done.
Now I know any quarterback would be kind of salty about that situation, but now you've had a little time from it. Was there any wisdom or anything that you gained out of that?
Just the ability to just stay focused and on the sidelines was huge. Not being distracted by the million other things. You're going in 2 plays, so you have time to take a breath, relax, regroup yourself, especially if there was a bad play before.
Right.
But the worst part was when you had a good play and you got to come out. So that was always tough. But it got me to where I am today. So can't be too upset about it.
So we'll credit Coach Hansen. We're going to credit some other adults along the way on this story too that neither one of us kind of understood, but they knew better than we did. So you go into your junior year, and Will is 1 year ahead, but there's an injury to Will, correct?
Correct. Midway through the season, right after Lake Braddock.
Okay. And so Lake Braddock, and I remember us talking about the Lake Braddock game. Well, maybe not your junior year, because you were going to face a drop 8 for the first time.
Right.
So people think drop 8 is new, but they were doing that way back when, right? Right. Yes, they were. And so you take over the helm. Now I looked it up. That team kind of had a mediocre record, correct?
Which one?
Your junior year team.
Yes. Very, very average season.
Very average season. I'm bringing this up because the next year you become one of the top teams in the region.
Yes, sir.
So I want to talk about that. What, from your perspective, what changed? What did you do? Was there anything that you did differently going into your senior year?
Well, since the keys were handed to me, I felt an obligation to, give it my all. I didn't waste a lot of time my senior year. Didn't do a whole bunch of, nonsense. I was laser focusing on working with you, extra film, drawing up plays. I drew up half the offense, coming up with different concepts, watching games and stuff like, hey, we should do this because we had 4 pass plays.
Okay.
Junior year. So I was like, all right, we need to expand that a little bit if we want to get into shotgun year round. And then, just getting a lot of chemistry with the guys. We did a whole bunch of stuff, 7-on-7, early mornings, throwing after school.
All right, let me interrupt you, because one of the things, I have players who say they want to be Division I. And, from a coaching standpoint, I think the biggest thing that you can do if you want to be a Division I athlete, the first thing you have to do is to adopt a Division I habit. And this is where I'm getting. I remember about this time, I calling you and asking you about something, and you remarked, oh, I'm getting up at 6 and I'm going to the gym in the morning. Yeah, like you had a morning routine that you were hitting the gym before school. Now, were you doing that your sophomore year going into your junior year, or is that something that picked up in your junior year going to your senior year?
That was something that picked up after my junior year, so the spring of my junior year.
Okay. And this is something I want to hone into. I believe that the first leadership that a quarterback can kind of exert is by his work ethic, right? But then the real leadership is not just how hard you work, but how hard you inspire other people to work. And either they follow your example, or because you're working so hard, you feel more comfortable kind of reaching out to guys and saying, hey, let's go do this. Let's go do this. Which one happened for you?
I think it fed off onto the team. A lot of guys were just they were reaching out to me like, hey, let's do this. Like I would have something planned at a specific time that I wanted to get done, but then if they reached out to me, I'd let that take priority, just because that means a lot that you have receivers who see you working and they want to get work because they know how special the season could be.
Yeah.
And just like that feeding off only inspires you to just keep working and not wasting time. So we didn't waste a lot of time senior year. All of us watching a lot of film, especially me and Max Patterson.
Yes.
We did a whole bunch of stuff together, would watch his routes, watch how he runs them, time it up. just understand each other a lot, and he would understand me with my reads and stuff.
Yes, and Max Patterson is turned out to be a Division I receiver. I think he's at Rutgers. He was last time I talked.
He's at Delaware now.
He's at Delaware. That's right. He moved from Rutgers to Delaware, and then Leposki moved out of Delaware. But anyway, you're gonna see as we go through these stories how small the circle gets. And we of course sent the 4th of July workout to you last year when Tony and Danny and Max Pat were there. I don't know where you were. You were at the beach or something. And
I was at the beach enjoying the sunrise.
Yes, you deserve to. You deserve to. So there was a different kind of work ethic and leadership that went into what is going to result in a pretty special senior season, right? Comparing to the year before, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you go into the senior year and you guys have a pretty special season. You stub your toe against Mount Vernon. You get your 8 wins in the regular season.
9.
No, I don't count the other one.
Yeah, that last game.
You beat W now. You beat W now. And it comes for us another point where an adult says something that neither one of us understood at the time. You win the first round game, and now you're going to the second round against Madison, another quarterback that we're training, Rye Yates. And your dad insists that we get together on a Sunday. Now, to set the table, we since have what we call a Stay Sharp Sundays program, an in-season program. But at the time, we didn't have it, or I didn't have it. And so I hadn't seen Grant physically, since the season started. And his dad calls up and he says, I want you guys to get together. And I'm like, when? He goes, like Sunday. I'm like, okay, whatever. And it was in the evening, and we went up at Fairfax High School. And I'm thinking the whole time, what am I going to do with this guy? We're not going to fix mechanics 5 days before the regional semifinal game. And I remember looking at your face. You were kind of sour, right? So I'm like, okay, I got a player maybe doesn't really want to be here. And then it dawned on me we could walk the field, right? And you mentioned it earlier. You really had studied your offense and formations and things like that. So when I asked you, hey, we're at the 10-yard line, right hash backed up, what play is coming in? You had a sense of the formation and the play that would come in at that time, right?
Right.
And we walked the field that day. And what I do remember is we got up around the 50-yard line, maybe just across the 50-yard line. And you don't have to remember the play, but there was a particular play that you said was coming in. You kind of groaned. And and I go, why are you groaning? He goes, well, because it never works. We call it, but it never works. And then we went through kind of what the route distribution was and why it would be taken away. And I remember there being kind of an epiphany. Go, I never saw that before.
Right.
So I say all this to say, fast forward to that Friday game at Madison where you and Rye are going at it. And I don't know if I told you this, but I watched you and you had command of what was going on. And I remember 2 big plays. One was down the right side going to their scoreboard, and one was down the left side, which was right before the half to Max Pat, going toward the concession end. And that kind of moved it from a back and forth game to, we're going to hold serve and get out of here. And you won.
Yes, sir.
Now, at this time, you meet all the metrics, right? You're 6'3", you're 210, 215, got a rocket arm, you're thrown all over the place, you can run the ball, you're fairly good looking, but no recruiting stuff has happened, not the way that you thought it would, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then the next week you go to the regional championship game against one of our guys, Noah Kim at Westfield, right?
That's right.
And you go in this case, people don't think that there's players in Northern Virginia. Rye Yates, by the way, converted to tight end. He's at Yale and won a conference championship. And then Noah Kim's at Eastern Michigan in the MAC right now. Was a starter at Michigan State at one point. And then you get hit by this guy, Eugene Asante.
That's right.
Yeah, Eugene Asante, North Carolina, Auburn, and the combine that just passed. He was a top-rated linebacker. So there's some guys in Northern Virginia who can play. But oddly enough, as disappointing as that first quarter injury was, it was first quarter, right?
It was
It was early in the game.
No, it was first drive of the second half.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that happens, but it's from that game that
Yep.
everybody kind of discovers you. They go, "Who's that guy?"
Yes,
Right?
sir.
And then you get the offer from where?
From Fordham.
Okay, very happy, great school, right?
Awesome school.
Awesome school. And then in January, February, what happens?
In January, February, I took a skiing trip up to Park City, and ended up tearing my ACL.
Like really well, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yes,
did
sir.
you did the deal.
I did it, and then the next day when I got back home, I got an MRI, confirmed it, and then had to call Coach Decker and Coach Conlon on the phone and let them know, and that was rough, but they held my scholarship for me, and rest is rest.
That was great. So we want to go through the Fordham thing. I told you there's 3 points about Fordham that I really want to talk about. Well, a fourth one. Again, the world gets smaller because DeKeys Carter is a receiver up there.
That's
He was a young guy that I had a chance to coach at Woodbury for. So you and DeKeys, the 2 guys that I know, kind of reunite. And I said there's 3 points at Fordham. You can add any more, but I just remember these 3 points. One was you got to this pain point of putting in the effort, putting in time, and you picked up the phone and we spoke for a while. You were like, explain a little bit at that point if you can remember.
Yeah, it was tough. Having to deal with the knee injury, and then going out to practice being third string when you know you should be at least second string is tough. And then having talks with your coaches and basically like, hey, like what's going on? Like, what's your thought process here? Because in my opinion, like I think I'm better than him, and that's what the consensus on the team. So what's the deal? And then I called you and I was like, well, what do I do? I know, like, I'm not going to sit here and be QE3, and you gave me some good advice to go up and just be a man and talk to him. That's what I did. And the next day,
actually, that's I'll tell you what. I remember this conversation. I was coming out of Centerville on Route 29. This is Virginia stuff, and I'm heading toward Fairfax City. So there's a Shell station on the right. I remember the exact conversation, exactly where I was. And I saw you ring up, and I went to Philly, and I thought it was just going to be, hey, what's up, coach thing. And it turned into a very serious conversation, right? You were really like, it was a pain point for you. And here's what I remember is watching you, Tony, and you all were like in this kind of wave system, even though you were independent of each other. So just a few weeks before your call, I had a call with Noah. And it seemed at the time, my opinion, that it was a common tactic of coaches. Well, I'm jumping ahead. But anyway, I'd had a talk with Noah, and he kind of handled it a different way. And I remember talking to you and saying, hey, just keep fighting. And you listened and you fought through. But there's another pain point that comes up, which is you get a chance to open against Nebraska. Right.
Yes, sir, yeah.
That was that. So you fought through that one. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. You've had some cool opening games,
sure
right?
Have.
Opened up against Nebraska, opened up against Virginia Tech, and opened up in the SEC against South Carolina,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Those are some pretty cool opens.
But
I remember the other pain point came when you were getting ready to go to the Nebraska game, and like a couple weeks before, you were about to get in, and they said no, and they put another guy in front of you. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
I know you remember that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit of how you're feeling when that happened.
Oh man, that's just a stab in the heart right there. When you know that, like, I don't know, like there's a system in football. It goes 1, 2, 3. That's the depth chart order.
Right.
And when you're the next man and you get like backslid, I mean, that's like the worst feeling in the world. And also it's Nebraska. Your whole family travels out there. You never get a chance to play in front of a stadium like that again. So I thought, and then to have that taken away, it was rough. It was
rough. And that's when the Noah thing, because Noah had a thing where his reps are suddenly taken away. Now, to show you how all environments aren't the same, and he kind of calmed down. And he just think, okay, I'm going to let this play out a little bit. And I remember sharing that information with you, and you listened very intently. And then at the end, you go, well, that's good, but I'm meeting with him tomorrow. I'm going.
Hey.
I'm getting this squared away.
there's no more waiting, coach.
That's right. And you did get it squared away. They told you whatever it was, and you were the guy, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So then another small world thing. just a friend of mine that I played together in high school, Debbie Nell. We actually coached together as adults. Life takes him through several moves, and he winds up in Lincoln, Nebraska, and he has a radio show in Lincoln. So I've got two of my guys, DeKeith Carter and Grant Wilson, coming out, and you guys get I think that's probably your first media interview, right?
That was.
Yeah. So that was
very nervous.
Yeah. Not nervous now, but and I told you, DP has since bought the radio station that he was working at.
That's right. That's awesome.
Yeah, 93.7 the ticket. All right. So there's a third pain point, which is you fight through all this stuff. And forgive me, the quarterback that his first name is Tim. What was his last name?
Demorat.
Right. An award-winning quarterback. You're just not going to move him out. He gets a COVID year. That finally, all that stuff is over. The season ends. You're going to get the keys to the car. And then 3 days after that, tell me what happened.
3 days after that, I find out that the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach and tight ends coach are leaving. Three of my closest friends on the staff.
Right.
That was tough. Spent a lot of time in the back office with those guys. Hearing that, I was like, well, what am I going to do? Like, are they going to change the offense? Are they going to do this or that? And then hearing rumors about they're going to bring in another quarterback or that they didn't, I mean, there's just so much of stuff going on and you have to like pinpoint like what's true and what's not true. So I just texted Coach Deck and I was like, hey, are you out? And he told me that he was making a decision whether or not he was going to take the Old Dominion job or he was going to stay at Fordham another season. And like an hour later, he called me and told me that he took the Old Dominion job. And then an hour after that, I met with Coach Conlon and told him that I wanted to pursue the transfer portal. And, I just didn't believe that they were going to do the same thing as Coach Decker did. I really did commit to Fordham because of him. I think that he's an offensive guru. I love the wide split switch verts. I love the way he coached quarterbacks. Kind of fell in love with that eagerness to be great that he wanted from you, the expectations. And then obviously watching Tim throw for 5,000 yards, have 6 touchdowns his senior year, you're like, all right, I want a piece of that for sure.
Right. So you hit the portal. I think there was another internal conversation. You actually went to the guy that if I remember correctly, that was going to become the OC. And did you have a direct conversation with him about where you stood? And he kind of told you, hey, I'm going to the portal. I'm bringing the guy in. Did that conversation?
They were on the road already recruiting, so I had a phone call conversation with them.
Okay.
And they didn't know if they were going to have me or bring in another guy. Okay. They didn't say that it was my job. They didn't say that it was someone else's. They just kind of leaned to the fact that it was going to be an open competition. Right. Which, I mean, I love competition. Competition brings the best out. But when you sit behind someone for 3 years, and you're dying to get in, and you get snubbed, you get pushed around a little bit, and then them not to tell you that you're the one, that stings.
Yeah, and I want to bring this up. A lot of times people think that competition at the quarterback position is fair. I throw 3 passes, you throw 3 passes. And what I try to tell people all the time, it's never, ever fair.
No.
Even from the earliest beginning, from youth league to middle school, it's not fair. Coaches have to make decisions. I'm not saying they make right decisions, but it's never fair. And you have to be good enough to kind of beat the cheat to separate. But as you get up in the area where you are, if a coach is kind of telling you after seeing you for 3 years and running the program, they look at you and they don't say, yes, we expect you to win the position. If they don't say that to you, they say instead, hey, I'm going out to get another guy. We're going to get in the portal. You're going to have to compete. That is essentially saying to you, hey, I'd be really surprised if you win this job. And you have to make a choice, right? And so you hit the portal because you couldn't talk to Coach Decker other than, I might make a decision. You just saw him make the decision.
Yep.
And you hit the portal. And luckily things work out that Coach Decker, I guess, presented you to Coach Ronnie, right? Because Coach Ronnie is hiring a new coordinator. I mean, it makes sense, but the head coach has to sign off on this thing.
Right.
Right. And Coach Ronnie is the one who calls you and lets you know, hey, I'm not just bringing you here because you've been working with my guy. Right. I'm bringing you here because I didn't know how you were missed. That's
exactly what he said. And that means the world to me because I always thought I've been overlooked. for him to say that, obviously a little bit is probably coach talk, but I believed him. He said that I don't know how I got out of the state.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know how he didn't recruit me. So that meant a lot that I wasn't coming in there following Coach Deck. I was coming in there to be part of Coach Ronnie's team. And just that initial phone call with him, it just showed that he wanted me just as much as Coach Deck wanted me there.
And to show you again how small the world is, my first interaction with Coach Ronnie was when he was at Penn State, and he was recruiting a quarterback that had been working with at Woodbury Forest, Lyndall Stone. So that's when I met him. And then, here is one of my guys going to go play for him. Now, you said earlier you weren't afraid of competition. You weren't. This is an interesting spring that happened because at Michigan State, Noah has a similar thing where he has a 2-year starter, captain 2-year starter going in spring, and you had a 2-year starter at ODU.
In captain,
yeah, but you went in, the 2-year guy transfers out. You eventually in August get declared the starter. And to make the world even smarter, a guy that had an opportunity to coach in high school, Jack Shields, is there, and he's a running mate with you. Yeah. So you win the job. I remember you calling me in August and, Coach, I'm the starter. And that was good. And you go into the season, you finally get on the football field, and there's some high moments and low moments. But the big thing about that season is when it came time to clinch a bowl game, you all got it done, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, and you get to go to the bowl game. And for those out there that want to poo-pah all these bowl games, I'm telling you, when you know a player that's involved in it and you know the struggles that go into sometimes getting that 6th win to qualify for the bowl game, it's a big daggone deal.
It sure is. That season was a grind. And to be able to play in a bowl game with some of your best friends, there's nothing better than that.
It is outstanding to get that extra time to play. And the bowl game started off just very nice. Very nice.
Hey.
It started off nice. We don't talk about the end. The beginning was hammer time.
That's right. First half was a good game.
It was a great game. So we'll just leave that to everybody else. But you come back the second year. Now you're experienced and you're the starter. There's some changes. I think Jack transfers out, goes to Buffalo. And then you're looking forward to the second year. And it turns out the second year is a little more challenging in different ways than the first. Is that fair to say?
That's right.
Yeah. And then I remember watching the game on TV. You're making a mad rush to try to score. And the next to last play, you get up and I see you holding your wrist. And you get the last play off. It doesn't go anywhere. And I remember, calling you. I thought it was just a wrist thing, but it wasn't. It was what happened.
I put my hand down to get up. I slid, put my hand down to get up, and a defensive lineman fell into the back of my elbow. I dislocated my elbow, and then I ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff to the elbow, to the tricep, to my wrist, and then I had to have surgery on my nerve.
Well, wait a second. Before we get to surgery, I called you up and I said, "What's going on?" You're like, "Coach, I got a bye week. I got this. I can be back by Bowling Green."
Right? I tried.
And you did try. You actually
got to a half, and my hand was stuck like this.
And I remember saying, "Grant, are you sure?" And you were hard headed, but you went. And then that. Now, when that happens, at some point, now your thinking starts to change. Then you start to think about leaving ODU. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And again, you hit the portal at probably the worst time, right? Because in the middle of hitting the portal, it gets flooded because NCAA is going to make a roster limit. So there's additional 3,000 guys that are hitting the portal.
Yeah.
So it went a little slower this time, right?
It did.
It went a little slower, but suddenly you get a call from what school?
I get a FaceTime call from Coach Kurt Signetti
from the head coach
couch down in Georgia, and he FaceTimes me and asks what I'm up to. He's like, "All right, well, let's get you up here tomorrow." Flew up, absolutely fell in love with Bloomington, fell in love with the campus, fell in love with the way that he coaches the team, and then fell in love with that program. I mean, it's just such a step up, and
we're going to talk about that in a second. But let's talk about the small world thing. ODU in your first year goes over to playing JMU where Coach Signetti is coaching.
That's right.
And this is JMU's transition year from FCS to FBS. They become a little bit of a national story because they're ripping off these runs, but they can't qualify for a bowl game. They can't qualify for a championship, and everybody wants to talk about it on sports radio. It's a Thursday night. Harrisonburg is jacked up, and you all went over there and you almost took them out, right?
Almost took him out.
You almost took them out, and that had to have been something that stuck in Kurt Signetti's mind because he's the one, not the OC, not ever. The head coach gets on the phone or would you say FaceTime to close the deal, get you up there. And then the last small world thing that we have is DeKeith Carter, who we mentioned earlier, in his grad year, he went to Indiana before Signetti. And then a guy that I had an opportunity to coach with and who was at our workouts early on in your career, Justice Ellison, he's now the running back coach at Indiana, right? It's a small world. And now what I want, Grant, is to kind of you have a, without putting anything down, just the differences of moving from an FCS Patriot team. Because I remember when you went to ODU, you were like, ooh. And now you went to ODU and you get IU and you're like, ooh. Yep. So just kind of started Fordham, different resources, and then finally to Indiana, the alignment. I think that's the word to use, the alignment of the program. So talk about that.
First, I just say it's all about perspective. I didn't know much at Yorktown. We never really had set lift times, set meeting times. The only time we watched film was, after the games on Saturday. But then when you get to Fordham, you're in this nice weight room. You're in this nice locker room. You have a practice field. You have a bigger stadium. Our stadium did not have another side. It was a baseball field. Only one side on the stadium. But, as coming from high school, you're like, this is awesome. This is, big time football. This is FCS Patriot League football. Let me go get my chance. And then little did I know, I thought ODU was the penthouse. I mean, I thought it was phenomenal. The weight room was the biggest thing I've ever seen. We had 1.5 practice fields, 1.5 practice fields. Our stadium had 2 sides. It was closed. It fit about 20,000 people.
Yeah. And by the way, that's a great stadium to play in, by the way.
ODU?
Yes.
It's awesome. It gets loud in there.
Yeah, it does. Keep going. Sorry.
And then, you're getting into the nutrition side of it. So we had shakes after lifts. We had cereal. We had breakfast sandwiches. We had all these sort of bars and stuff and supplements. You're like, okay, well, this is really nice. And our locker room was just rebuilt, state of the art. We had our really nice meeting rooms. And then, I'm like, how much better could it get? Right.
It can get better.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I learned. And then I took a tour to Indiana, and I'll tell you what, the first thing you see is that stadium. It is unreal. I mean, it's just awesome. I mean, about 50,000 people there, just roaring. And then everything underneath the stadium is football. Like you have your academic side, the nutrition, the dining halls, but then the whole left side is football. You have your weight room, your training room, your cold tubs, hot tubs, your locker room, your nutrition room, your team room. And then upstairs, you have all your meeting rooms. You have, where we watch film, where we, go in there to talk with the GAs and stuff. And then outside, you walk through this tunnel and you have 2 practice fields, a grass and a turf. And then you have this massive indoor. And it's just like, wow. I mean, this place is just unbelievable. Like what a blessing it is to be here. Never would have thought I'd be, it's such an unreal facility. But then, I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. Your climb is a little unique. I think it's going to happen more, maybe not the 3 levels that you went through, but maybe 2 levels. I think it's going to happen more and more with the roster limits. There's going to be guys that are pushed down to certain areas, but they're going to demonstrate that they can kind of play. They'll hit the portal, they'll have the experience and move up. But right now, yours is a really experienced. I mean, you essentially moved up 3 levels of football within Division I, right from Patriot to Group of 5, and now to Power 5 or Power 4, however you want to do it. And with a program that has serious visions of being in the conversation for the college football playoffs in January, right? That's the alignment. And for those that haven't been in those buildings like that, Speak a little bit to the theme and how everything's kind of wrapped in this one kind of concept as you're going forward.
Yep. So, I mean, first off, Coach Signetti's work ethic is one of a kind. He's in the building, first one in the building, probably the last one to leave, except for the GAs, because they want to stay a little bit longer. So Coach Signetti sees him when he walks out.
Yes.
But I mean, just the amount of film he watches is unreal. First off, and then second, his mentality is to win the Big Ten championship, and then to win the national championship. Everything else will fall into place, but those are his goals. And just to be able to, I mean, he believes it. He wants it so bad, and you can tell. And that's just like a complete different shift of what I'm used to. I mean, just to put those like in front of you every single day, like those are the goals. Let's attain those goals. Let's work every single day to get better towards those goals. It's not about, like doing this, and this. It's about like, what can I do to win the Big Ten championship? What can I do to win the national championship? And just that mindset every day that you're a champion and that you're going to be a champion. It's huge.
Yeah. They call that program alignment. And you get that feeling if you even talk to the janitor or one of the GAs, right? Anybody who doesn't fit with that vision usually doesn't stick around very long. And the programs like that are on that kind of course, they have a way of messaging that on the walls of the building. I think there's a 3-letter word that's everywhere you go at Indiana. Which one is it?
That's a win.
Yeah. It's
on the back of all of our shirts too.
Yeah.
So it's just mentality, and you're held to that expectation in everything that you do. I mean, it's just who we are.
Yeah. No, it's great. And it sounds like not only from a football perspective, but have you gotten to experience Bloomington a little bit and the people? And is it a town that you kind of like?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, it is such a cool spot. I mean, the city's built for the University of Indiana, or for Indiana University.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so cool. It's a real college town. There's stuff to do. There's so many activities you can do. I've played a lot of golf so far, so grew out of that.
Well, listen, we'll take a couple minutes here. Talking about that, this is the second time that you kind of had to acclimate to different teammates. And so, I remember talking to you when you're at ODU, trying to get to know the guys. So you've been through that experience. That's another thing about guys in the portal. It's getting kind of like pro football in some instances where maybe a third or 25% of your roster will turn over. Right. Yep. And so I imagine the programs have gotten good at assimilating the guys. How did that process go for you?
I mean, it's always tough walking in the door and not knowing anyone.
Right.
I'd say ODU was a little bit easier because I knew Jack Shields.
Right.
But he ended up being like one of my best friends there. Mm-hmm. And then, living with a group of guys that you enjoy being around also helps. So you form that group and then you just branch out. Mm-hmm. But Indiana was definitely tough. Coming in there as a 6th-year guy, you're usually looked at as like the grandpa or the old man, that sort of thing. But, I feel like my personality just kind of like, I love being around people. I'm a social guy. I love talking. I love getting to know everyone. And I think that works as a quarterback. I mean, asking questions, like, who are you? What do you do? Like those sort of things, like being like upfront and honest, like that goes a long way as a quarterback, being able to just relate to your teammates and understand them, and then finding things that you relate with them about, and then talk about those things, engage with them, and not really just hold yourself away because you think that you're new. We have 33 new guys, but you won't be able to tell who's a new guy now.
Yeah.
And it's the closest team I've ever been around.
And let me ask you, we'll just go a little bit further. I'm guessing, Grant, I'm going to ask a couple questions I don't know the answer to. But that part that you just described, I remember from going to ODU on, I got the impression that ability to expand yourself, to get to know teammates better, that's something that kind of grew. You didn't have that necessarily when you were at Yorktown. Is that fair to say?
I'd say I definitely didn't have it at Fordham either.
Okay. But when you went to ODU, that was a part. I remember us getting on the phone and talking about this.
Yes, sir.
Because, again, this thing was coming up about leadership and leadership styles, right? If you're going to be given the keys to the car, not only you're going to lead, but then how do you want to lead these group of guys, right?
Right.
But ODU, that kind of expanded for you, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then and going into Indiana, there's a role for you. There's a quarterback that they've chosen that's going to be the starter, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you're competing and you're pushing them every day and doing what you're supposed to do, but you still have this role of getting to know everybody because you are the next guy up. I mean, if things work out right and all that kind of mess, you're the next guy up. Something happens, you're in,
Yes,
more
sir.
or less. Okay, so you do have a large responsibility there about how you're going to lead your guys and all that kind of stuff. And another question I want to ask you. I know you love football and love competing and everything else, but is there something bigger that you play for that motivates you to play? Like,
I mean, it's going to come back to just getting to know the guys. Like once you build a group of friends, I always take it back to high school. There's nothing like high school. You grow up with those guys. You do so many things outside of football with those guys. You absolutely love that group. Like your senior year, those are your closest friends in the whole world. And being able to, and not really being able to do that at Fordham was tough. But then, all right, I'm going to be the guy here at ODU. So let me do what I did senior year. Let's get as close as possible. Let's let those guys kind of feed off my energy, my work ethic, the expectation that I want for this team, and let's come together. And it's just, it's tough doing that now because there's a starter ahead of me.
right.
There's a guy who's been told that he's the starter ahead of me, which I mean, I knew that coming into the situation,
Right.
but a chance to play at a Big Ten program has been my goal ever since I can remember. So that's obviously why I took the journey.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's funny the way things work out. I mean, it's
Okay.
just, you never want to hope bad for anybody, but it is funny how things work out, especially in football. But yeah, that idea of getting to know your teammates, and it's funny you talk about the high school point, a real kind of, maybe it seems like a corny word, but one of the things I found out that teams that win, they really kind of love each other. I mean,
That's
it sounds
so true.
hokey, but it is true. I mean, you care about the people that you're around, and you find out that really those tough days that you don't want to do something, that bigger purpose that, hey, I really want the guys to have some success. I really want the team to have some success, right?
Right.
That becomes the thing that kind of gets you over that tough hump. Especially on the days you don't feel like doing stuff, right? I mean, honest, you're as hard a worker as any quarterback I've been around, but there's got to be days where I don't want to do this today, but you get up and you go do it anyway, right? You've had those. Everybody has those moments. Really good stuff, Grant. Listen, I'm gonna get to Bloomington. I got to work out some travel plans. We've got a few more days on the field while you're home. We gave you a good Sunday workout. Yes.
We sure did. Hey, if you guys need something, go to that.
Yeah.
That is tough stuff right there.
We gave you a good Sunday workout, and I want to shout out to the receivers who came out after.
Right.
So we'll see you soon, or see you tomorrow on the field. Thanks for taking time out to do this. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for all you do, Coach.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you, Coach.